Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with our amazing writer, Alison Halen, joining us here. That's her specialty, yes. And she's the creator and founder of AV Writing Services, based out of Chicago, Illinois, but she's worldwide, helping you with every aspect. And that's avwritingservices.com. Welcome back today. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. It's good to finally see you. We've talked on the phone
we've
a
been
couple
talking
times.
and it's like, who's Alison, who's Jill, but we already got our bond. We're excited. So since it is the first Zoom and still new audience each and every time, would you mind sharing the best form, all forms of contact before we start?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, my website is probably the best form of content for me. It is, as you said, AV, as in my initials, Alison Verhalen. So avwritingservices.com. My email is info@avwritingservices.com, and I'm mostly on LinkedIn. I'm on a few different social channels, but the best way to get a hold of me on social is LinkedIn, and I'm there as Alison Verhalen. Pretty easy to find. I think I'm the only Alison Verhalen out there.
Well, tell us a little about what you do.
Yeah, content marketing. So essentially, what I do is I help high quality leads find you. And that's all about making sure that your content is as effective as possible, optimized for search engines, i.e., Google. It's not the only search engine out there. It is just the giant search engine that something like 90% of people are using. So yeah, making sure that you are showing up when people are looking for you and making sure the content is actually engaging so that the real life people who find your website are actually going to keep reading all the way to that call to action. So you have a better chance of converting them at least into a warm lead, if not a client right then and there.
Got it. Well, also excited to have you here. And it's important before you get into specifics about your branding content and creating all this content and, of course, helping with SEOs. Let me ask you your background. Let's find out more about you and your passion of writing and love of writing, please.
Yeah, I got into this on the writing side. Always loved writing. Always wanted to be a writer when I was growing up. Was told writers don't make any money and I should choose a more practical career. So I figured, well, if I can't make money writing books, maybe I can make money making books. I ended up majoring in English and psychology, which turned out to be the perfect degree for what I'm doing now. Little did I know, I had no clue this was even an option. Like I said, thought I wanted to work in publishing, graduated in 2009, right after the job market crashed. So there were no jobs to be had in publishing or really anywhere else. So ended up answering phones for a few years, ended up between jobs at one point. And my roommate at the time, her dad, who was an attorney, was awesome and offered to give me stuff to do around his office until I got back on my feet. And one of the things he needed was someone to write blog posts for his law firm. And he knew I had a strong writing background. So he offered me the gig. And I was like, what? I can get paid to write? Seriously? Yeah, sign me up. So I jumped at that chance and started writing for him and then for an associate of his and then for some friends of mine and did eventually get another day job, but I kept writing on the side and it just kept growing until I couldn't do both anymore. So quit the day job about 8.5 years ago now, and I've been doing this full time ever since. And then, yeah, the more I learned about blogging professionally, the more I learned that you really can't do blogging without SEO and vice versa. And so started working SEO best practices into my content and then marketing strategy as well to make sure that you are standing out from the crowd and attracting your ideal client, leading them through the buyer journey so that, again, you can actually get conversions from your content because eyeballs are great, but that's just the first step.
Back to the basics. What is SEO again? Remind us.
Yes, sorry. Search
Now,
engine
take a sip of
optimization.
water and then
Yeah.
search engine optimization. I'll say it and we'll both choose.
Awesome. Yeah, making Google your friend.
Got it. Perfect. All right. Well, specifically for today, what did you have in mind to talk about? I mean, there's so much to the work you could do to help someone out there who's listening. So please, all ears.
Yeah, well, I was just talking to someone earlier today who was really good at creating content on a schedule, which is awesome. She was at the end of our conversation was like, "Tell me what I'm doing wrong." I was like, "No, you're ahead of the ball because you're consistently creating content." But she's not creating content with a strategy in mind. She's looking at what's new in her industry, creating content around that, which is a great start, but she's not measuring it. She's not tracking traffic to her website. has no idea if anyone is looking at any of this content, and if they are, which pieces of content are really resonating with people. So that is something that I always recommend that people do. Have a strategy going and have goals for your content. That's where that call to action comes in, because you want to lead people through the buyer journey. It might be having people reach out for a phone call and buy something from you. It might be signing up for your webinar or signing up for your newsletter, but you have to know where they are in the buyer journey. So you have that goal so you can lead them to the next step in the buyer journey. And then you have a way to measure that goal. Did you get people registering for your webinar? Did you get more newsletter subscribers? Whatever that goal is, did you meet it? And the only way that you can know that is if you measure it. Same with traffic. Just having more traffic to your website is absolutely a worthy goal for content, but that means you have to track the traffic to your website. So have a way to do that.
Oh my goodness. And we all want more of that, right? To the website traffic, we call it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Well,
Getting
how
eyeballs
can
on
we
that
get it?
content.
How can we get it? Give us the tricks.
Yeah. Keywords. Again, creating content on a consistent basis, just answering the questions that your audience is asking. That's where the keywords come in. Those are super important. I always do my keyword research before creating any piece of content, making sure the keywords are in all the right places. Google does tend to look at the headline, the URL, the subheadings before it really looks at the body of your content. So those are the places where it's really important to have those keywords. Making sure that the keyword is a good keyword. That means it has a fair amount of traffic, but also not a terribly high keyword difficulty or SEO difficulty score. A higher score means that there's a lot of content out there using that keyword. So it's going to be harder to rank for it. A lower keyword difficulty or SEO difficulty score, depending on the tool, they have different names for it, but a lower score means that it's easier to rank for. So you want to find that gap where people are looking for information on this topic, but not already finding answers to that information. That's a great opportunity for you to rank for that.
Awesome. Ooh, and on your website, you also blog a lot, right?
I do
There's
try to practice what I preach. So yes, there's a lot of content on there.
You do webinars as well. And you mentioned, I mean, blogging is important, other things to help with creating content. But again, these are all things I don't know how to grow an audience. This is not my expertise. You with your content marketing and brand managing, it's just comes easy to you. So if someone comes to you, give me some examples, some of the clients you're working for, types of businesses, and what have they gotten out of their company, and their hopefully profitability margins have gone up by working with you.
For sure. Yeah. So that first client I mentioned of mine is an attorney. He's a partner in his law firm. And so that ended up being a really sweet niche. So I decided to stick with it. So I do write for a lot of lawyers, some financial planners and insurance people, just because those are people who really need my help. They should not be doing their own marketing, but they do understand the value of marketing and of trying to stand out from the crowd, because there's a million lawyers out there and a million financial planners out there. So identifying what it is that should make someone want to work with you over someone else is super important. And then communicating that in your content, because that's often two different things, is identifying that and then actually communicating it in a way that resonates with them, and making sure that's consistent through your content is super, super important. And yeah, that first client that I worked for, his law firm, so I would write like 2 to 4 blog posts per month for him. And I wrote for him for years. And at the end of the first about 6 months, he came back to me and told me that I had brought in $75,000 worth of business for his law firm just through the content I was creating for him, just through
Wow.
those blog posts. So yeah, and he was certainly not paying me $75,000 for 6 months worth of blog posts. So he was definitely getting a significant return on that investment. So yeah, it works. If you have a strategy and you stick to it, it can be really effective.
Wow. And then you said he's retired, right? So now,
Yeah,
okay,
he's retired now. It's
that's
I
awesome.
am still writing for him, an associate of his, that first associate that he introduced me to. We're still working together. So yeah.
All right, Alison, what else do you want us to know about you and AV writing services?
Yeah, just the fact that I can help with that strategy, making sure that it's as effective as possible, as well as the distribution strategy. So I'm not going to actually distribute your content for you, but I can help you identify what are the best social media channels for you to be on? Where can you be distributing your content? What are some of the best ways you can distribute it on there? But then I know some other people who do handle social media, so I can make those referrals for you. But I do always want to make sure, yes, it should be optimized for Google, but that's not enough on its own. You need a way to proactively get it out there in front of people. So growing that audience on social media. And again, your newsletter, super important.
All right. And how would you help someone that, for example, what about working in the podcast business? Right? Right. It's all about what type of strategies do you have for them? Because they have to be marketable, profitable to attract
Mm-hmm.
new clients, new businesses, and, get their reach out, right?
Yeah, well, obviously, I love podcasting. I think it's a great way to get your name out there, whether you have your own podcast or you're guesting on someone else's podcast. Guesting from an SEO perspective, it's a great way to get your name out there and just get in front of more people and let more people know about what you do. It can also get you that backlink because they usually include a link to your website in the show notes. So that's a backlink to your website. That is when another website creates a link to your website. Google tracks that. Google wants to make sure that other people are using you as a reference because that builds your authority, your credibility. So that is absolutely valuable from an SEO perspective. And I love if you have your own podcast, I always recommend taking that creating a transcript of that audio and then putting it up as a blog post on your website. So you're really getting the most out of that content. If people want to read it, they can read it. If people want to listen to the episode, they can do that. But it's all about maximizing that piece of content and getting it in as many different places as you can. So you're getting the most out of it.
Oh my gosh. So give me some example. What have you been blogging about lately? Anything in particular?
I just wrote one about a lead magnet, actually. That was my most recent blog post.
Tell
Um,
me. Let's
yeah,
hear
so
about
it's a
that.
great way to get people onto your newsletter. So the way that I have it set up on my website is when you're on my website and then you start hovering like you're going to click away, this pop-up pops up saying, before you go, do you want this tip on, writing blog posts? So they can go ahead and download that. That's totally free, but now they've signed up for my newsletter because they have to give me their email address in exchange for that. So then they get a couple different drip campaigns, a couple emails that automatically get sent to them after that, and then they are on my newsletter after that. So that is a great way to capture those leads who are on your website, might be interested, but are not yet ready to buy. It's a great way to capture them and keep their attention and stay top of mind with them. So always recommend doing that. Yeah, I've also written about marketing and sales and how they go together because there is kind of this perception, I think, that marketing and sales are like two different separate entities, and they are, but they really work better when they're working together. And I talk about blogging versus social media because that's another one where a lot of people are on social media and they're investing in social media, but they're not investing as heavily on the content that lives on their website. And as much as I recommend people be on social media, first and foremost, you should always own your own content. You don't own whatever goes up on social media. So absolutely recommend using that as a distribution tactic and growing your relationship and solidifying those relationships with the people that you meet, but really invest most of your time and effort into the content that you own, which would live on your website.
And of course, link the social media to the website, though, correct?
Yes.
I've seen that, right? They have like live feeds that go every day. If you have a website, you go to the website, you can see the Facebook little
Mm-hmm.
icon or and it's the post actually comes up on the site too, so you can kind of cross promote or cross use. But again, that could all disappear. You're right. You don't own that content.
Right.
I never thought of it that way. You're right. Yeah, that's right. I don't even have a website. So yeah, I'm archaic, but yeah, I should have one. But yeah, so I'm one of those people who don't promote. But in the business I've been in my whole life, I should have in a sense. And let's remind everyone, Allison, all the forms of contact, how they can reach you, please.
Yeah. So again, my website is AV as in my initials, Alison Verhalen. So that is avwritingservices.com. My email is info@avwritingservices.com. And I'm on LinkedIn at Alison Verhalen. And I also have a business page at AV Writing Services on LinkedIn. So you can check out any and all of those.
And on Instagram?
I am on Instagram. Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, I have AV Writing Services is on
And
Instagram.
70% of what? You said at
70%
your
of the buying
post.
decision, yeah, is made. That's right. That was my post this morning. Thank you for doing your research. Yeah. 70% of the buying decision is made online before people ever reach out to you. So that's just an indication of the way that people are
Wow.
going to the internet first to do their research and get as much information as they can before they send you an email, fill out a form, call you, whatever it is that final step or next to final step is in the buyer journey. They're getting that information online. So if you are not investing in building your online presence and positioning yourself as a thought leader in your industry, you are missing out on so many opportunities to get people's attention and to convince them that they really want to work with you over one of your competitors.
Amazing. Thank you. And what other advice do you have for us out there, businesses, people? Listen up right now, because people might say, well, I don't really understand this. How is it really going to help me gain business and attract? Would you mind giving us the update on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it from the other side, what is your first thing that you do when you need, if you're want more information on a product or service, if you're considering whether you should buy it, if you consider where you should buy it from, most people, their first stop is Google. They're going to get some information, look for information on Google. So if you are not creating content at all, you're certainly not going to show up. But then you also need to create content that Google likes and is actually answering those questions so that you can get in front of people early in the buyer journey. And that gives you a better chance to convert them into leads.
And now, how does it work for someone in your field, right? Competitor wise, right? You're up against others that do the same thing. What would you say really sets you apart that makes you unique, if you don't mind?
Yeah, a few things. First of all, it's the fact that I do the SEO and the marketing strategy, and I work all of that into the content that I create for my clients. And that helps me create content that it sounds like the clients that I'm writing for, right? I want to make sure it has your brand voice and is specific to your target audience, making instead of making sure it's super generic. I really want it to be as specific to your brand as possible. And I'm really good at that. I've had solopreneurs that I write for who have been writing for ages and can't do it anymore. And they hire me and I look through their content and I interview them and I create content that their regular followers who have known them for years cannot tell who wrote what because I'm really good at inhabiting their voice and writing in their voice.
Oh, and your passion goes deep. Tell us about your, since the first Zoom, bring us back to when you were younger and what brought you into this field.
Yeah, I always wanted to be a writer when I was growing up. And yeah, I was told that writers don't make any money and so I have been proving my parents wrong ever since. Ever since I got that first client who was like, hey, I need someone to write blog posts for my law firm. It turned out to be really lucrative for him and lucrative for me. And once I became aware of that, I was amazed to find how many people are out there like, yeah, I need content. I need to get the word out there and educate my target audience. But I can't do it. It's so time consuming for the average person. I mean, it's time consuming for me too, but it takes me a lot less time than it takes someone who's not a born writer, who's not spent all of their time on a keyboard. So yeah, I love bringing that to my clients.
Oh my goodness. Was this your original career path or how did you get this niche? Yeah.
Yeah, I totally fell into it because that my roommate at the time, her dad, who has was a partner in a law firm, asked me to write blog posts for his law firm. So uh, fell into this business, fell into the niche, did not plan any of this. It has all been one big happy accident. But yeah, much to my surprise, I have found out that I really am good at writing for lawyers. I'm good at taking that lawyer speak and turning it into content that the average person can understand. So their target audience actually knows what they're talking about and I enjoy writing for them. I actually for a brief minute there, I thought I might have wanted to go to law school and pursue a degree in law, and I am now very glad that I did not. But it has helped me just get more interest in the law and what's going on with it, and what do people need to know, how they can use it to their advantage, how they can avoid screwing themselves over by doing the wrong thing or not doing the right thing. Yeah, it's actually an industry that much to my surprise, I'm really interested in
Wow.
and I really enjoy writing for.
Isn't that funny? Like you're still in the field you wanted to be in, kind of like you're working with all these attorneys, you're in it, like your knowledge, your passion for law, and you're involved in another way. That's so crazy. I had my doctor friend who always wanted to be a television anchor. You'll never believe this, but that's what he wanted to do. His parents made him go to medical schools, doctors in the family, and then next thing you know, he gets a job on television, being the medical expert. So he got to
Yeah.
live out both dreams, and he became a doctor, and then Dr. Steve, his name is, and then he got to work on television. So it's like I love when that stuff happens because you feel destined to something, and maybe it's not the right time, the right spot, the right fit, but I feel like there's a destiny for all of
Mhm.
us, and somehow that comes out like that.
For sure. Yeah, the universe just leads you where you were meant to be. So yeah, similarly, like I said, majored in English and psychology, and then also minored in theater because when I was exploring options, also kind of wanted to go into theater for a while, actually. Never would have thought that I could find a career that uses all of my degree, but have found that public speaking and coming on shows like this is a great way to get the word out about my business. So, much to my surprise, managed to find a career that, yeah,
Mhm.
manages to encompass all of my interests and includes all of my degree, and is just a lot of
Great.
fun, and I'm loving it.
All right. If we want to reach out to Alison Verhalen, tell us again how.
avwritingservices.com is my website, and you can email me at info@avwritingservices.com. And I'm on LinkedIn as Alison Verhalen, and I'm on Instagram as AV Writing Services. I think
Perfect.
AV Writing is the handle.
All right. We could just Google. You'll pop up, right?
I'll pop up. Yep.
Of course. You're good like that. Thank you so much. As all of our listeners, stay tuned. More of the show is on the way. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.